The next panel is very near and dear to my heart. We are going to be talking about AI and Metaverse and bringing it into 3.0 era of movies. So as we get set up, we are going to invite Mr. Sean O'Kelly, Mr. Roger Christian, Mr. Jack Gao, as well as Mr. Stephen O'Reilly up onto the stage too. So again, we're very excited to be able to discuss how we see technology being integrated into this whole process of movies as well too. So without further ado, let's invite our guests up onto the stage as well too. Let's give them a round of applause. All right, thank you so much again. I'm really excited for this panel too because this panel has been putting a lot of energy and synergies into it too. We've had some breakfast amongst the team as well as lunch too. Some people have flown just last night just to come here as well too, so we're very excited. To kick things off, I know that you guys have done a lot, many people do, so for those who don't, if we can do just a simple introduction about yourself and kind of the background experience that you come from as well too. We'll start with Mr. Roger Christian.
Hi everybody. After doing a lot of work, I worked with George Lucas and I had to create the entire look of the used universe for George. I had to create R2-D2 and the lightsaber and many things like that, and also Alien. And since I directed Second Unit, which is another crew working alongside George on Return of the Jedi and on Phantom Menace. And George then helped finance my first short film, and I became a director then, so I've been directing ever since. And I'm working now with Brilliant Pictures. We've been doing some time working on a project which is very interesting. And we're now, AI has kind of unleashed a way to do it, which is an involvement with the entire community, which is what we were looking to do. And so we've gone a long way since when I started, like R2-D2, the only way to move him in the desert was pull him on a bit of fishing wire. And the lightsaber I made from an old camera part for about $15. So we've come a long way since then, when there was no CGI and there were no computers, and now we're going into a very interesting world. And the only last thing I'll say is that every change that's come, when the digital cameras came in, everyone was afraid and said, oh, it's the end of cinema. And then when VHS tapes came in, oh, it's the end of cinema. Then same with DVDs and Blu-rays, oh, it's the end of cinema. Now all I hear is, oh, AI, that's going to be the end of cinema. Right. It will be if you look on it as working in the old ways, and that's how we do things. No, you have to do what George did and create a product. What AI can't do is at the heart of creation. It can use whatever is existing at the moment. And so that's kind of my involvement and why this is very interesting for me.
Yeah, and we will definitely get into detail with all of that too.
Okay.
Great, thank you so much. And Mr. Jack Gao, if you can introduce yourself a little bit as well too.
Sure, thanks, Jaysen. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Jack Gao Chunyao. I feel very honored to be invited by organizer for the panel. I'm generally stoked to be in the company with such panel and also talk to the forward-thinking innovators at Edge in the last 2 days. I'm thinking of this as sort of like tech and entertainment reunion. I feel very relevant. I spent 30 years in writing technology in entertainments, and along the way took a few adventures, from being the president of Microsoft China and then literally fit in the bigger shoes as interim CEO of legendary pictures in Hollywood, and the leading director to restructuring AMC and expanding AMC theaters to be the largest in North America, largest in Europe, and largest in the world in the cinemas. Not to forget my leadership position at News Corporation, 20th Century Fox, Wanda Group. Now I'm at the new cool gig as Smart Cinema, which provides the mobile theatrical services, expanding the cinema, physical cinema, to the smart screens, as well as a company called Jaysen, which is the largest smart cinema operating system provider beside Google TV. And here's the real kicker, and we feel really fortunate to be living in this area, which experienced all enormous industry and technology revolutions. Start from the Web 1.0, which is web of information. That's static, that's global library, that's read. And naturally moving to the Web 2.0, which is this internet of sociability, which is interactive, the global publishing, and build completely different experience. Now we dive our heads into the Web 3.0, so-called web of valuation, which is very mobile and also become the global data bank. So that is really drive of keep the gears turning in myself. Everything about it, Web 3, AI, and what that meant to make us in the journey to experience enormously immersive in the entertainment. We never ever have that before. So I'm looking forward for the discussion.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Gao. Yes.
Hello. I'm Stephen O'Reilly. I'm a director of an entertainment company called IE Music. We're based in London, and we have offices in Los Angeles and in Sydney, Australia. We're mainly known as a music management company who manage artists, and Robbie Williams is our kind of most popularly known, most successful artist, and we've managed Rob for over 25 years. One of the reasons I'm here at this conference and in Asia is we are embarking on some new projects in film and television, but also in Web3 and the Metaverse. We have a Netflix 4-part documentary coming out in November, which was produced by Ridley Scott and Associates. It's about Robbie's life, and it's been an amazing experience to work with Ridley Scott's team and Netflix. But we are also releasing a biopic, a movie next year about Robbie's life, celebrating his story. And that movie is directed by Michael Gracie. It's finished. It's in post-production now. In the special effects stages, and we're working with Weta in New Zealand, the people behind Lord of the Rings, King Kong, Avatar 2. Our film has a lot of immersive worlds, incredible, groundbreaking special effects for a musical or a music-related film, and as part of that project, we. Now that we've done all of this amazing work on this movie, we're trying to figure out how we can bring that film and the content and the IP to life, in the Metaverse or on stage or on screen. And it's been really exciting to learn and connect with the people here and the technology that they're working on. Last night we announced a partnership with the guys at Light Cycle. And we look forward to building upon that partnership with Light Cycle. So that's IE and Robbie. My background is also in music and technology. I ran a digital distribution company that was acquired in 2012 by Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine, called Topspin, that kind of gave me more interest in doing things direct to consumer, using the internet to sell music, tickets, merch, downloads, films, direct to consumers. So that's my background.
Great, thank you so much. Last but not least.
Hi, thank you, by the way, for inviting us. Absolute pleasure to be here. I'm Sean O'Kelly. I'm the chairman of Brilliant Pictures. We're a film production company based in London and in Rome, in Italy, and we specialize in financing and creating feature films and television projects. Some of our more notable films, especially here in China, Iron Sky, which I believe is a cult phenomenon, so I'm told, but all the way down to Margin Call, for which we've been Oscar nominated, and we've various accolades. We tend to produce around about 4 feature films a year, in the budget range of between 50 and sort of $60 million per film. We're currently working in a partnership with Vertex. I've had a collaboration with my good friend here, Roger Christian, for many, many years, and we want to explore the world of the Metaverse. We want to create content within the Metaverse created by the Metaverse, and what I mean by that is a collaboration with our communities and using useful tools such as AI. I think, as Roger mentioned, you can never take away the creativity, but there's a hell of a lot you can do with AI, which is becoming incredibly resourceful. And to use that to our benefit and to create content within the Metaverse, by the Metaverse, for the Metaverse.
Great, thank you so much. And again, my name is Jaysen Lai. I am part of H3 Entertainment, which stands for Hollywood 3.0. We are working to integrate Web3, Metaverse, and AI into the whole production process, where we can create new streams of revenue for all the stakeholders in the party, as well as to allow fans access closer to Hollywood as well, too. So with that being said, again, this topic is near and dear to my heart. I wanted to start off with something that we have been talking about throughout this conference as well, too. There is a narrative of fear, uncertainty, and doubt of this technology ruling and taking over, AI and Metaverse taking over. You also see that in the Hollywood strikes that we witnessed as well, too, for about 146, 147 days and counting, right? Might be over. I think we still need to talk about that. But I am curious about that. So if we can start from the end over here, too.
So I've been involved with AI in film since 2020, I believe, where I became an ambassador for a company called Largo AI. And primarily in those days, because it's a very young sort of thing, so to speak, AI is as good as the information it has, right? So what they did is they went to all the big film studios, they took all the big scripts, and they merged it all into their database. But it was very primitive, so it was very difficult. And like I said, I mean, it's a really useful ingredient. It's a really tremendous tool to create ideas and the backbone, the structure. But what you can't do, and I have to stress this, you can never replace creativity, because that's something emotional, it's something from the brain. At this stage, I don't think AI can do that, and I hope it doesn't, because it would put a lot of creatives out of work. But anyway, but having been at the forefront of AI in those early days, we now see its uses within the film business, and this is why I think the Metaverse and creating content within the Metaverse, utilizing communities, is such a vital tool. And I think it'll already resonate with audiences because it's created by the audience, so to speak.
And Stephen, I know from the music side, how have you seen AI expand, and your thoughts as well, too?
Yeah, well, through working with Robbie, we have explored and experimented with AI technology over the past 3 years, mainly in the audio space. So like one example from last year, we worked with Deutsche Telekom and their labs and an institute in Europe called the Von Karajan Institute, where we took Beethoven's unfinished 10th Symphony and used some of that music and as an inspiration to create a new piece of music with Rob, using one of his iconic songs, which is Angels. And, so we had to spend a bit of time, training the AI, working with their data scientists, and we came out with a track that was extremely successful, and you know, to take it from an AI experiment, we you know, we then worked with an orchestra to premiere that track, and it was broadcast, you know, all over Europe. That was really exciting collaboration, and at the beginning, I think we were skeptical. You know, we were curious, but not negative. You know, we were, you know, embrace technology rather than try and hold it back. And with the movie that we're working on, the biopic with Michael Gracie, Michael and his team have, because it's got a lot of songs and music in it, and it's Rob's life story, so they've used AI to, you know, they fed it all of his vocals and his voice, you know, throughout his life, you know, from a teenager to, you know, to his 40s, and the AI is able to, you know, recreate his voice at different ages, you know, and the songs and the music, and we're also exploring how we can use that AI to make music in other languages as well, because we've given it all of the inputs and the training, and we're still learning, but I'm quite fascinated to see what the output will be from the AI.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a testament of that too is we saw Robbie in Light Cycle last night as well too. So even in the metaverse, there's a lot of need for IP and stories, and it is the Wild West that we can revive and bring in IP as well too.
Yeah, and it was our first time to, you know, we're working towards a bigger partnership and something really extraordinary. It would be really, you know, the fans will love it, but we needed amazing technical partners because we can't do these things on our own. So, yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah. And Mr. Gao, too, coming from the executive level side, too, you have to be the bridge to both the talent side as well the business side, the show and the business. You have to balance both. So as you are observing technology and entertainment, what are your thoughts of all of this AI and technology development as well, too?
Well, that's stunning. And as Serge said, look at what is striking in Hollywood. We sit on this side of the globe monitoring what's happening there. And when I saw that, that's sad to look the Hollywood idling over 150 days. But who is the real enemy? But fundamentally, you come up to be the technology and business model exchange. Which is, so the strike to me is not surprising. I'm not saying that I'm expected that 5 years ago, but as a result of the business model, especially as you just mentioned about the cinema model, which had been there 130 days, 30 years, which is the box office model. When the streaming arises and the subscription model shows up, and all the fundamental thing is changed. When I was responsible for AMC at like a cinema camp, versus the Netflix TED, Serendo's camp, that's basically the fierce discussion about the business model. When technology emerged and the business model emerged, and that all the fundamental infrastructure in Hollywood will be challenged. That basically fundamental part today, the AMPTP versus SGA and the SAG, has a lot to do with the residual payment and all that. So that like inevitable, that's happened. But regarding what happened, we have no way to change the technology development. So we have to find a new way to deal with it. But given the fact of those, that's a result of what I'm currently doing today. As I really firmly believe the box office model is a fundamental part for the movie business, and to encourage people to invest and to risk, to make big movies like SEC does, like invest $400 million to make Avatar type of part. So the model is critical. That's not being possible for the advertising base or CMP type of click, type of supported model. So that's a real result of what I'm currently doing in the smart cinema, as well as the coming, they call it relaxed cinema, which basically try to leverage AI, or especially the Web3 blockchain model to create the cinema business available on all smart screens, backed by blockchain, so that their box office or trust being guaranteed by the technology or not by the current system. So we're still on that path. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, because I think that two sides of AI and entertainment is one is the data analytics, crunching and all of that to provide bigger data, right? And then the other side is the creative side of how AI might take over the creative. So it's interesting to see how you are the bridge to that as well too. So Roger Christian, I know you were saying part of Star Wars as well too. You were saying at that time, even working with George Lucas, it wasn't, he had this vision, and at that time, people were like, is this really going to work? And do you see any kind of parallels during that time of development to what we are experiencing now in Web3 and AI?
It's a general kind of human trait, which is fear, basically fear of failure. And if you look at the history of what George wrote, a movie that he wanted to see and the world wanted to see. And when he first put the script out, science fiction, there was no box office. There was no market for science fiction at the time. And so it was turned down by every studio. Alan Ladd had put his faith in the director, George Lucas, not in the script. And that was the reason why, at the end, we had so little money to make it with. The budget they gave was what they analyzed, Fox Board analyzed that it would make $12 million. So they gave, at the beginning, they gave $4 million. And there was the same element of fear that this is never going to work. What George did was, and I remember his, he was saying where it came from, going to a cinema when he was making American Graffiti, and there was no films for family or children, nothing. It had all disappeared. So he decided to make a fantasy science fiction film aimed at 9 to 12-year-old children. And as he's quoted many times, it wasn't his fault that adults like it as well. There were only 5 of us actually on the crew who stood by George. The crew didn't understand it. They were fairly against it all the way through it. It was not an easy film to make, but it got made and it changed cinema. Certainly became one of the first of the global blockbusters. And that fear of change is rampant throughout history. That's how human beings are. So it's usually the independent kind of thinkers who change. And what's most relevant is George wrote a story that he wanted to see. If you look at Lord of the Rings, it wasn't created by the technology, it was created by great literature and adapted beautifully by the director. And George has never, if you look at the history, they built a computer that could duplicate passes to be able to do that fantastic opening shot that really thrilled the world, and to shoot models. And then on Empire Strikes Back, they used the technology to that state. George never wrote to the technology. He wrote the story that he wanted to see. He always relied on hiring people, and he has a very strong instinct on who to hire, who would go out and say, okay, we can't rely on our past experience, we're going to make it happen. And it went all the way through. When I was directing Second Unit on Phantom Menace, we had one of the first absolutely real CGI created characters in Watto, and it was never questioned. You only read really mostly about Jar Jar, but this was the first one, and it's led now to the amazing ability to make Mandalorian, and with virtual settings and everything, and Boba Fett. And the big break that's now come through is Carrie Fisher came back and played a role after she died in The Rise of Skywalker. And Luke came back as a young actor and played a role in 2 of the TV series. So, you know, how long is it going to be before some dead film star is going to come back in a major role in a movie and win an Oscar? So it's very relevant. But the thing to look at is this, and I'm in the industry and I'm writing and everything. What you were saying is absolutely correct. It's the content. Everybody has to do is adapt to what is coming, because it's not going away. There is a huge fear in the world of robots are going to take over. They probably are. We have to get used to it. And the pandemic showed us we're pretty vulnerable as human beings. Robots would be able to do everything, and the future of mankind could rest with them. So that's my science fiction version of it. But change is coming, and it's coming very rapidly. It's happened throughout the Industrial Revolution. It happened through the digital revolutions. It's now happened with the Internet revolution. It's changed everything. This is the new one that's coming. So there's no good burying your head in the sand and saying, oh, you know, we're afraid and it's going to take our jobs. It will if you think like that. You have to now responsibly behave. The studios will be doing the same, and work out ways how to use it all and to overcome and to go into a thrilling new world. It always excites me.
Great. Yes.
I just wanted to kind of add to what Roger said about, you know, Star Wars. You know, at the heart of it was an amazing story. First and foremost, the story was amazing, and maybe I could, like, with my music hat on, like, I compare like that to a song, you know, like, because like the songs that like your favorite artist wrote, they seem to get better as time goes on. And you know, with Rob, who we manage, we're trying to use technology to help tell these songs, you know, that were written 30 years ago. So whether it's like amazing immersive screens at a live show, or you know, like Coldplay have the wristbands, you know, like that are synced with the music. My point is that we're taking like a great story, a song, and then using technology to, you know, or videos or film. And with live, it's all these giant screens. Like it's like people don't even look at the stage really. They look at the screens and the side of the screens. And I'm really fascinated how we can, you know, get more into that space in the future through like immersive presentations, you know, online and offline.
Yeah, and at the core of that, it's Robbie Williams' talent that is what matters.
Yeah.
And it's just now new ways of putting it out to people. But it's that originality of creating songs. He didn't create them on an internet.
Yeah. Maybe another very quick point, like an example that really inspires me, which kind of is ABBA Voyage. You know, the ABBA, the band, you know, they stopped touring in 1980, and they gave up, you know. And now they worked with ILM, with George Lucas's company, to recreate digital versions of themselves. And they built a 4,000-seat arena in London, the band. They raise a lot of money, and fans come every night to watch an ABBA show with a live band on the side. And like, it was all done with ILM technology, ABBA, great songs, great presentation, and it's sold out for the next 2 years in London. It's pretty amazing. You can see where, you know, bands like the Rolling Stones, when they don't want to tour, or the Beatles, or Kiss, you know, people that have like an amazing visual presentation, where this can go. And ABBA have been the pioneers and the trailblazers.
Yeah, absolutely. Even with Kiss, I personally got to go to their End of the World tour at O2. So to see their energy, and they are also working on technology to almost like resurrect some of the IP too. So it's very, very interesting. The question goes back to Sean as well. I'm kind of curious about specific technology that you are integrating within movie making as well too.
I do apologize. I can't hear a word anyone's saying because the speaker...
Oh, is it specific technology that you're incorporating into movie making?
Yeah, absolutely. It's my favorite subject at the moment, especially here. No, I think we're in this new, very exciting playground, essentially. You know, as a filmmaker and a producer, you know, we've now got all these new tools and, you know, essentially platforms, right? I mean, if you look at the metaverse, for instance, you know, I mentioned Playground, and it is that. It's a new territory for us to not only distribute, but for the first time, really, is to collaborate with your audience in advance, right? You don't get that, you know, we can't do that in traditional filmmaking. We have to do test screenings when the film is done, and then it's either yes or no or, you know, whatever, right? Whereas I think the beautiful thing about the metaverse is you can collaborate with your communities in advance. So for instance, in the case of the projects that I'm doing with Roger, he's got one of the biggest communities in the world because, you know, he's Star Wars and Alien, and I could go on and on for 100 hours, right? But these fan bases become the backbone of what we're trying to create, and we involve them in that creative process. Now, you don't normally get to do that in traditional filmmaking or TV or whatever. So that's a new, you know, newfound ground for us. And secondly, I think the distribution within the metaverse is something new as well. So, you know, cinemas, for instance, as you know, you know, it's very touch and go at the moment. It's a very dicey, tricky business. A lot of money in traditional marketing and so on. Whereas if you already have these audiences within the metaverse, which you can invite, you can give them different subscriptions. So, for instance, they could see the film in Hollywood at the Chinese theater and have the red carpet treatment in real life, but also they could see it, you know, using an Oculus headset, for instance, VR, and they have the same treatment as being in the real theater itself. They get to, you know, speak to the stars in the green room and so on and so forth. You know, I think this is absolutely mind-boggling, and I really do think it's going to change and shape the future of how we make film and distribute film.
So really that experiential entertainment, becoming more experiential with
100%, yeah, absolutely. I think that's all, you know, that's what we do. You know, we create experiences just like Stephen does with his music and so on, and, you know, and it's all about that. And I think, you know, we're coming, I feel we're coming to the end of this traditional cinema phase, you know, and now, you know, my 8-year-old daughter, you know, wears a VR headset and she goes into all these worlds. She's grown up on Roblox, you know, that's the generation we have to cater to. So unless we get with the trend, you know, yeah. So that's what we're going to do.
So it's interesting what you're saying in that model, because with the communities, you're actually able to have marketing in the beginning as well, too.
Yes, absolutely. So we're going to involve our communities from the get-go, you know, so right from the concept, storyline, to helping us create and design the characters, their backstories, and all the way through to the visuals, the universes, and so on. So by doing that, not only do we know that it resonates with the audience, i.e. our community, but we also know, you know, there's going to be a lot more like them, and it should resonate further.
And you feel that can be monetized as well, too?
Pardon?
You feel that can be monetized?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think, you know, we're exploring a kind of a subscription model, you know, where the benefits are you can get NFT perks, you can get, like I said, the real life experience. You can go to the Chinese theater in Hollywood for the premiere. We'll fly you out there, but also you can get to see the premiere exclusively within the metaverse. It's the only place you can see it. You know, so there'll be lots of perks that you can do, but also you're part of the process, right? So you can actually say, I helped you create that character, you know? It's fantastic for a fan, you know?
Great. And Stephen, I'm kind of curious on the music side, what specific technology you're integrating as well, too, as well as I know you're managing talent, too.
We've taken our time to embrace the blockchain. You know, I think there's a lot of interesting opportunities for us to work towards. You know, currently, like, we have fan clubs and subscriptions and, you know, millions of followers on social media and, you know, millions of email addresses. And I'm really interested in how we can use blockchain technology to, you know, to sort out and order and record, like, the interaction amongst fans. And I think the blockchain is an interesting way to measure, you know, engagement and membership and loyalty, and things like subscriptions or purchases, or just engagement. So the blockchain is a real area of interest for us. We're, you know, Shopify is a platform that we use for all of our e-commerce, and you know, Shopify has been such a vital platform for us for selling music, tickets, merchandise, subscriptions, and we're kind of hoping that whoever we work with in the Web3 space can kind of seamlessly plug into our existing e-commerce setups, because some of our audience are not Web3 native, you know what I mean? So like whatever we do has to be simple, reliable, we need trust, and we need value. You know, we can't take advantage of our fans, because we need to make sure that we treat them, you know, with respect, and not try and force things, you know. So some fans don't want NFTs, or they don't want to learn about Web3 or the blockchain. So we need to be conscious of how they can embrace that technology, but they don't need to have a crypto wallet or you know, the technical things that can scare off our audiences.
Great. And for Ms. Jack Gao, too, I know you use the word smart cinema. That's also your company name as well, too. What does that entail? What do you envision with smart cinema, as well as on the distribution side as well, too? What kind of specific technology are you integrating into the process?
Well, if you look at the movie business, the production, distribution, and exhibition, so my focus more on exhibition side of it, and look at all the three screens, mainly the silver screen, the smart devices, and now looking smart TV, which is basically how to connect Rogers' content to the unexpected audience at large, not only in AMC or silver screens. So from that perspective, looking from three perspectives. One's a silver screen. It's about 10 years ago, we started the company called WeChat Ticketing. The first time ever used the mobile devices to sell movie ticket, connecting the movie ticket selling to all the audience. That's the first time ever really movie makers connect the movie viewers, finally. Today they become normal, like Fandango and all that, and become very successful, and we're very happy to make that change from that perspective. That's one side of it. That's a basic leverage by the technology, mobile technology by then. Then we're looking how to really extend the coverage of the screening to most of the people, especially in China. Even though the China box office grew 70 times in the last 20 years, from minimum to $9.5 billion on 2019, very close to North America by then. But still, more than 80% of the population haven't get a chance to go to cinema even once a year. So how to really cover that? So make a cinema available whenever the internet and the mobile phone available is our first goal when we launched smart cinema 6 years ago, which has become the big news in the industry and it's very controversial. And physical cinema feel like you're threatened, but from other side of people feel like finally the people in Tibet, where they barely have any cinema, can see Rogers' movie. So that will last 5 years, basically, zig and zag. We survive it today, we make it really progress and learn quite a bit. At the same time, when technology proceeding, like especially ChatGPT came up, which fascinated us. So look at how to really propagate it to the smart TVs. So smart TVs is still a big chunk of the people to get access to all the major movie, the series content, or long form and the contents. But one barrier that we had is smart TV versus the viewer. The UI, the interface is incredible terrible compared to all the other screens. You know, the remote control do all this. That's impossible for us to think about how our parents. So that is another part we really spend the time on. Work with the smart cinema, a smart TV operating system. So we get that's launched last week in Amsterdam. That finally we have the new operating system called Will OS 4, which created the interactions between the viewer versus the TV verbally through the AI. You talk to TV, what do you want? You want to Star Wars, Rogers movie, whatever the Rogers the last products and all that, make that possible to connect proper content at a proper time to the proper audience through the new technologies. But the bottom line of that, I'm still sticking on the pay-per-view box office model. So we'll see how that goes. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Then Roger, a question for you too. You're very creative and imaginary. Where do you see this technology going as well too, within the creative side?
What I'm doing with Sean, it was in the process now of doing a science fiction animation series, and I've fallen in love with this animation techniques. It's just freeing. It's so good, and animation's become almost 40%, I think 50% of the box office now. Animation films have become incredibly popular, and it's grown up. It's not for children anymore. It's not just Disney. Now we've got these. So working on content, we are going to use, and let's go back to Star Wars. So there's no difference. When George wrote the script for Star Wars, he based the elements on Kurosawa's Forbidden Fortress. There's two squabbling peasants who get caught up in a war they have no part of, get arrested, dumped in a desert, they have an argument, split up, and then they're persuaded to go and help a princess to save her kingdom. It's the same story. And he took reference from the Dam Busters, where, again, here's a pioneer who everyone thought was crazy, and he invented a bomb that bounced on water to try and break a dam. So what he did was take elements and put it in. I'm doing the same thing using AI, because AI works if you're writing a script on feeding in what you want it to do. So where the fear in Hollywood is, and the writers are saying, oh, they're just going to go and get a script written and go and make it, and they don't have to pay writers. Well, that's, in the end, that's probably a very small element of what's coming.
Right.
The change that is coming, we're going to feed in. There's a whole streams of. I'm going to feed in what we want, because I've got a very strong idea of what to make, and we want to involve the community. And I think this is like groundbreaking way to help as well, because distribution, we are in the business of not making obscure art films. We are in the business of trying to make money for the investors. So, and it's harder now than it's ever been before to finance movies or TV series. So any way we can do that will make a new kind of way to do that, we have to look at and embrace. So if you don't rely on an AI program to write your script for you, but if you use the technology to go in, feed in what you want, it will save a lot of time, and you're still going to be working on it and improving it. So I think this is the core of it, as I said, because when you go back to it, it's always the originality of content of the movies. It's no, look at Guy Ritchie. He became famous and rich for a tiny film called, I've forgotten the name of it now, but Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels. George became well known because he made a very small independent movie for $1 million, and it grossed $120 million. It's nearly always, look at James Cameron's first film, which he made. Look at RoboCop. That Terminator was a little $1 million movie. Somehow they'll get made, and they will create the new origins and series, and that's the way cinema actually has worked. We are fairground buskers. We're making it for an audience. So I think the technology now is only going to help.
Yeah, great. One question that I wanted to open up to is thoughts on regulation and what kind of regulation is needed, whether in Web3, AI, or the Metaverse as well too. Just anyone who wanted to take that question.
Well, I can give you my, as someone who represents an artist, a creator, we have to work with our legal team and our lawyers. We don't want to stop innovation, but we don't want people to be able to go out and like, you know, be a fake version of the artist that we represent. So like, I guess that's when, you know, the law will be an important, you know, and like some legal firms are very, you know, have leaned into Web3 and AI. So that's an area that like, I have concerns about, but also we realize we can't stop it. We can't stop people creating, and some of these things, like there was somebody created a new Drake song, you know, with AI technology, and some people, you know, actually think this is Drake. Someone also done a new song by Frank Sinatra, you know, today, using AI, and it's incredibly, well, it's just really exciting. However, surely the Frank Sinatra estate are going to be asking some questions around, you know, there was no permission, and who's making the money, you know, so because it's his IP really, you know, it's his brand, it's his name, it's his reputation. So yeah, it's my observation.
So I just want to chime in because it's quite a hot subject right now in Hollywood. You know, first time in 40 years, I believe, you know, we've got one of the biggest actors' strikes in the world, right? So Hollywood comes to a standstill, as does the whole of the film and TV process. And this is actually primarily down to a couple of key factors. One, the main one, I think, is the most controversial one, is that the Hollywood studios wanted to use and keep the images of the IP to reuse potentially elsewhere. And I think this needs to be addressed. I mean, it's the elephant in the room. It has to be sorted out because, again, you know, there's a marvelous opportunity, but at the same time, you can't have your cake and eat it. You know, the creative, the artist, so to speak, has to be protected, and that's what the whole strike's about. So I think, you know, we have to be very mindful to guard the rights and protect the creatives at all costs.
Yes.
I sort of really echo what the Stephen and Sean just said. AI is general purpose technology. So it's far more than just a tool. Now we call Copilot, a duet, and all that. So the double sword, edged sword. So the necessary regulation definitely needed. And like declare that's generated by AI, either authorship or ownership is really necessary. So along the way, like nuclear technology, could be either way. So set a proper regulation by politicians is definitely needed to guide real. Let's go the right directions.
Great. Great. We were out of time, but I wanted to see, just really circle back, any closing thoughts that you wanted to give to the audience very quickly as well, too. So we'll start with Roger, go back as well. Just quick closing thoughts.
I always say to everybody, I wrote a book on making Star Wars, and the last line is, don't let anyone tell you you can't, you can. And I think that's really relevant now to where we are. There's so much fear going on around this kind of AI problem, which is only a problem when it's created by fear. So, and I understand you have to have regulations. You've got to have ownership for the original kind of content, all of those things. That'll come, and then it's up to the creatives to go and break all those rules.
Great. Thank you.
Well, we have reached the point of no returns. Right. And I don't think AI will replace our wonderful creators, but the wonderful creators who embrace, understand, and learn AI replace those who don't.
Thank you.
Yeah, maybe for me, events like this, and, you know, meeting some of the people and some of the companies that were showcasing their technology, it's been really helpful and inspiring because it's not our world. But I guess my advice for some of the folks that are running these startups or companies that are helping analog artists or creators enter the digital world is to, you know, speak their language. You know, I mean, it doesn't, try and keep it not too technical. It doesn't always need to be extremely technical, and figure out ways that we can work together, and, you know, make money together as well. You know, so like everything has to make sense for both parties as well.
Great.
I've probably said it already, but I think there's a tremendous opportunity, a really exciting one of that. You know, we have a new platform, essentially. We're able to finance, create, produce, and distribute movies within this new platform, i.e. the Metaverse, which is, yeah, I mean, that's the holy grail for us. And I think, you know, with regards to AI, you know, having been a pioneer of AI in the film business thus far, I think it adds so much weight, tremendous opportunities there, but also, you know, used in the right way.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for everyone's time. Let's give it up to our panelists, too, for the insightful discussion, too. So thank you so much.